You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. What up, everybody? It's your boy, Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And today I got a superstar lineup of independent creators that are going to kick your ass in February with one of the illest stories. I mean, I only seen a preview. I can't wait to learn more. They teased the shit out of me with this fantastic book that I absolutely fell in love with. I mean, in that very small preview, I've already fallen in love with the protagonist, and I need to know what happens. And they definitely formed an all-star team. Let me start introducing this amazing team from a book called Thistle that's going to be coming out again on Kickstarter in February. First up, the one only Mr. J.L. Collins. Epa, what up, kiddo? How you doing?
Al, thank you so much. I'm doing great. Really happy to be here with you today.
Well, thanks for joining me, man. I'm happy, man. Let's bring on 3 other members of the team. That's right, folks. This is like the Voltron of comics right here. All right. So let's get the again. Please, I'm taking a chance here of pronouncing your last name. Please don't laugh at me, Collins. Don't even tell me. Allow me to try. Please.
You got it, Al.
The one and only SCHIEK.
SCHIEK. You're very close.
SCHIEK. SCHIEK. All right, what's popping, kiddo? Look at you, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, brother. Thank you for joining and hanging out with us today to talk about the greatness of this comic you're working on. First, and then next up, we have the one only LELAND. I'm not even going to try the last name. I'm
It's Björg. Hey, Al.
Björg.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no doubt, brother, man. I didn't even want to disrespect LELAND. There we go, man. You're a one-man name person. That's it, like Cher,
like Beyonce,
and all that. Hell
yeah,
yo. All right. But then we got superstar over here, the one and only with the superstar smile, MARISA Brignoli.
Yeah, well, Brignol, but yeah.
Brignol. I was close. I tried. Thank you. Superstar smile, yo. This is the team right here, yo. Wait till you guys see the beauty of this book. And of course, you know Comic Crusaders Podcast will tease you with fantastic artwork and could talk about those awesome panels and their contributions of this amazing story. But let's start here. I need to know origin stories. I need to know who you guys are and how you fell in love with this fandom before we get into the greatness of this book called Thistle. All right, JL, talk about yourself. Where you from, man, and talk about your origin story into the fandom.
Thanks, Al. I hear you. I appreciate that. I am J.L. Collins. I'm a Canadian comic book writer, fantasy author, tabletop role-playing game designer. I dabble in a lot of different disciplines. Comics has always been my first love. Thistle is the culmination of that love over many, many years of being a fan first and then being a writer and then coming to the realization that I wanted and can tell comic book stories and putting that energy towards that. Thistle, of course, is a fantasy comic. And as a Gen X kid growing up in the 80s, fantasy was a huge part of our world. So it is my love of fantasy that drew me to want to tell that type of story. But comics was the medium that I wanted to tell that story, and it always has been. I'm so excited to share this with everybody.
So who put you onto that, though, to comics, if you will? Was that your first love? Was that your first taste? And if so, who was it? Again, mama, papa, titi, tío, I mean, primo, who was it?
So, yeah, that's a really great question. And I don't know that it was any one person because, no, it wasn't my parents. It wasn't part of what they did. My mom would support me. And before I was old enough to get myself around town, she'd take me to the comic shop if that's where I wanted to go. I think it was a mix of my high school friends where we would hang out and we were discovering in no short order being fed a diet of 80s action movies and fantasy and science fiction and Star Wars and all of the great things like that. But growing up in a smaller town in the middle of the interior of British Columbia, snowbound in the winter, right? We didn't have a lot of entertainment options. And when the first real comic shop opened up in the late 80s, early 90s in my hometown, we as high school kids, we were just bees to honey, bees to the flower, right? Like just
flocking.
Absolutely. And so I think comics weren't necessarily something like I'd seen comics in the corner store, I probably had, and what it was actually Archie Comics was where I cut my teeth in terms of reading comics, but that's not the same thing as reading a floppy and reading, the comics as we know them. And so with my friends and I getting to go to this haven, this hole in the wall store where you could go in and all of your fantasies, all of your imagination were on display on the walls and on the shelves in front of you. That was so liberating and so inspiring. And it didn't take us long to just eat that up with a spoon. And from there, it was finding out which heroes you identified with, which obviously it was a lot of superheroes back in the day. And each of us had our own comics appetite. And I liked the fact that while my friends were chasing X-Men and the mutants, I was, maybe more drawn to Spider-Man and Daredevil and those loner heroes who were fighting to find their way in life. And that I identified with that a lot as a reader and a fan, and I identify a lot of that as a writer as well.
I love it, man. Shit, I was told up, man. I was going for horror comics and Conan comics, Transformers, G.I. Joe comics. I was going on a different scale than my friends. And then I got into some Amazing and X-Men and found that. And my first taste of Spider-Man was during the Gang War run. And then my first taste of Captain America was the Scourge run. Yes. This is why I guess I love villains. I love just killing people. They're just vicious. Look what I was brought up on. So, Marissa, how about you? What's your origin story? Where are you from? And how did you start, getting a love for the fandom?
My origin story. I am from the States, but I moved to Vancouver to go to film school.
Where in the States?
Connecticut. I went Connecticut, New York City, Vancouver, and
I bet. I used to be from Brooklyn.
Oh, cool. I lived in Brooklyn. Yeah, awesome.
Best pizza in the world.
Oh, yeah. Best lots of things. I love New York.
Absolutely.
I actually worked in the same office as Zach Thompson and Lonnie Nadler before they published. I remember, they were like.
But Bloody Disgusting for that time?
Huh?
Around Bloody Disgusting time? Because I know Lonnie was writing for them.
Yes. Yeah. And they were both working for Vice, I think, and the company that we were at. And that was right before they published, I think, Come Into Me. But anyway, so yeah, I was like in the comic book store just because it was cool. It looked cool on the outside. It's called Golden Age Comics on Granville. Gorgeous. I didn't know anything about comics, and I ran into Zach, and he's like, "Oh, hey," because we knew each other from work, and he recommended so many. I left with like a stack of comics. Saga was the first one I read. You spent
your paycheck. Yeah. Damn, Zach, I couldn't pay the rent this month. Can I move in?
Yeah, and now I'm like freelance comic creator, so I have even less money.
How dope.
Thanks, Zach.
Oh, right there. Thanks for leading me this way. Right?
I know who to blame.
Al, just to let you know how small the world is too, Marissa's referencing Golden Age Comics Collectibles down on Granville in Vancouver. The owner of that store was the owner that opened Golden Age Comics in my hometown, where I grew up in BC as well.
Wow,
so that was one of their expansion stores that they were moving out of Lower Mainland. So now I just found out today on this podcast that Marissa and I have another connection that we didn't even know we had. So there you go.
The Golden Age connection.
Yeah.
Hey,
what if we find out we all like know each other through Golden Age?
There you go.
You know what? I haven't been to a Golden Age yet. Let's see.
Cool.
I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
7 degrees of Golden Age.
Yeah. We're all somehow connected. Mm-hmm.
So who gave you the love of the fandom, though? I mean,
what does that mean?
As a kid, were you ever presented to something that started making you like this, or you were not into it at all?
No, I mean, like I drew growing up, but like I just drew my own thing.
You
like,
did?
Yeah.
Hey.
I was like the weird art kid in my family. I didn't get into comics until like 2014.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then I kind of like got into it because I was like, I feel like I could do this. Like this is like right up my alley. So
nice. What about you, Leland? What's that origin story, man? Where you from, man? How'd you fall in love?
I'm from a tiny mountain town. Like so many Canadians, and like to put it in perspective, I feel like I tell an American I'm from a small town, and they picture like 10,000 people, like 250 people.
So you know everybody.
Yeah, you know everybody. Like I realized, like so many comics people, I'm a bit of an introvert, and I realized part of that was like for the first 10 years of my life, I didn't really meet anyone. Everybody I knew, I'd always known. I was introduced to them before I could talk.
Gotcha. So yeah, they were just there.
Yeah, they were just there. Yeah, I just took these people for granted. I'm interested in how the small town experience has changed, because I go back home and like they got a cell tower now. Kids got smartphones. My culture pipeline was the tiny comic rack in our one convenience store in town, and that was like it. I had Ninja Turtles. I had one Spider-Man of the 5 different titles that were coming in, which was really frustrating when Maximum Carnage
when you have the
coming out.
crossover title. Hell yeah, bro. I can't imagine you get tight,
me and my friends are trying to collect all of Maximum Carnage, and you're just begging your parents to take you to the comic stores when they're going to the big city once every couple of weeks grocery shopping to try to pick up those titles. So we all work together and piece together Maximum Carnage. So yeah, that's what I really remember, from my origin, was the hunger of getting these little tastes of this amazing, these amazing stories and characters, and just being desperate to get to those comic shops in the city where we could.
You made me feel like, wow, man. Then I really had it great, because I had a shop called Grand Book Center that sold old books, but they had a couple of racks and they were packaged for old comic books. That's where I got so many horror comic books and Thor comic books, Marvel team ups and all that. Like it was 3 for $1. So my titi was like, well, if you help me with this, I'll give you $5. So man, I was walking home every weekend with 50. I was like, Mom, can I stay with Titi this weekend? And like, why you want to stay there all the time? I was like, yeah. Until one day she realized, like, what the hell do you got all these comic books? Well, why do you think I want to stay with Titi? You know what I mean? Awesome. What about you, Jay?
Actually, my story is kind of similar to Leland's. I grew up in a really small gold rush town in Northern California. We had one grocery store had one of those Archie Comics spinner racks, and it was luck of the draw, whatever you could get there. I kind of fell in love with comics through a Simpsons episode, actually. The old 3 Men in a Comic Book. I think it's from like season 2 or 3.
A comic book. Let me not take off my hat and show off my ponytail, bro.
The one where Bart, Milhouse, and Martin pool their money to buy Radioactive Man #1. Yeah. I kind of got into it because of that. I was first kind of not like taken with the collectability aspect of it, so I bought very broadly and read a lot of stuff from the time. Spider-Man, Daredevil, Ninja Turtles were a big one. And same kind of situation. The spinner rack was like my lifeblood as a kid. But my grandparents lived down in Sacramento, and there were shops down here. In fact, I still visit them frequently. Same ones I used to go to when I was a preteen.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, there's pretty much the only game in town right now is A1 Comics.
All right.
In, Carmichael area. But the people who lived next door had a son about my age, and I got him into comic books. And so his dad would occasionally take both of us out for the afternoon. He might take us to a comic convention if there was one in Sacramento, or we just had a list of all the comic shops in the Sacramento area, and he'd take us to 4 or 5 of them in the course of a day. So, I mean, like the $30 that I'd managed to save over 2 months, I would blow on comic books in a single afternoon.
Man, do I understand that? Trust you me. As a kid, hell yeah, I would blow my whole rack. All right, no problem. Let's get it done. I just want some good stuff. Straight up. Marisa, to you now. Let's talk about you stepping into the creative journey. Like, how was that, and why did you do it? I mean, what was the day that you said, I want to do this, I'm done, and you put yourself out there like that?
Yeah, I feel like that happened recently. Like, I joined the comic group because my husband's like, hey, you like comics? There's a comic group that meets at the library, and it was the Okanagan Comic Creators.
May I ask, is your man a comic fan?
No, he's not.
He's not. He's not.
No, but he's a creative. No,
but he's a creative. Okay.
Yeah. He's an editor.
Okay, cool.
He's super talented. He edited the trailer, the Thistle trailer that you probably saw.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not probably. You asking if I probably? Hey, I'll show it off later. I'm gonna go to the website and I'll show it off if you guys are okay with that, so that way we can share it too.
Please. Yeah.
All right, bet.
Yeah. So I joined the comic group having never made a comic, and like, luckily Leland was like, here's one of my old scripts if you want to draw it. And I did, and it was fun. It was like just all the things I like. You have to create like a sense of pace and timing, but in panels. Like, I'm very into like the technical side of creating comics. I read the Will Eisner book, right? It's Will Eisner? Yep. No. Yeah. Creating comics. Their suggestion. So that's how I kind of get into it. Just like making comics with the group and realizing like I can do this, and it's like easy to make a comic with a small group of people and tell like a complete story and have like a big part in the reader's experience.
So did you have a learning curve, or did you find it easy to kind of get acclimated into what you were doing?
No, like the first page I ever drew was horrible. It's so overworked and complicated. I look back at it now and I'm just like, what's happening in this? There's a huge learning curve. But I feel like I got better quickly because I was meeting weekly with a group of really smart people who gave me really good feedback. So
wonderful.
A good anecdote about that time. The first time Marisa showed up, she's like, I'm trying to make comics, and could you take a look at my art? And she shows this amazing sketch of a young woman, and it's like, oh, I want this character, I want this to be the main character in my story, but I can't draw her face the same every time. And she proceeds to show like 5 images of this flawlessly rendered character, looks exactly the same to me.
No way.
They're like, what are you talking about?
Right? This is not, I can't, I don't have a perfect 3D model of this person in my head. I was just like, you're ready.
A lot of what I learned was just like loosening up and just like learning to stop working on stuff.
Yeah, man, don't be afraid. I love it. What about you, Leland? When you started getting into the creative space, what was that dive like for you?
I'm definitely the sort of creative that bounces around. So I was writing poetry in high school, and then making music, and then later after that trying to make cartoons, writing short stories and stuff, and after bouncing around a bunch and struggling to make a cartoon, I was like, I love comics. Why have I been skipping over this particular passion that's so doable? Like that's one of the things, that's so beautiful about comics is their accessibility. And as soon as I started, I just loved the medium more and more. Just discovered stuff that, because my comics world was so small when I was a kid, there were no copies of Watchmen in my town.
You should have came to New York, brother. I was going to a convention, and them things was just in boxes back in the day for 50 cents, $1. Not anymore, of course.
That was me around 6 or 7 years ago, going, hey, this is it. I've ricocheted between all kinds of different types of creative output, and this is the one that I really want to focus on.
Nice.
And so I've just been going hard on comics, getting as good as I can at everything that I have the potential to be good at, and
fantastic.
Going from there. Yeah.
As you should. What about you, JL?
I remember I have memories of writing some of my first comic scripts when I was 14 years old. I'd only been into comics for maybe a year or so before that. And so where that bug came from, I couldn't even tell you at that point. But I think I was enjoying comics so much that I wanted to create them, just as Leland said, right? You want to create stories and you don't even know how yet. But I remember writing my own Marvel comic scripts just to just for the joy of getting to do it and not even knowing the process at that point. I had told this story once before too, that when you think about other mediums and other like things like my role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, there's people that write those books and there's names in there, but you don't think of that as a job. You don't think of that as that you can go and do that. That's something that somebody else does. But comic books, front page, second page, every issue, there's these names of these people that make these comics every month for the fans to read. And so you realize that that's something that you can actually do, that somebody's getting paid to do this. And so it was a long tortured path to get there. It was not something that I was able to pursue early, because obviously you need a skill set to make comics. If you don't have that skill set yourself, you need to assemble a team. And I had no concept of how to find those types of people back in the day. No comic conventions and no internet, and there's no way to connect with other people that are passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah, people didn't understand, right, how hard it was then. I mean, now, you know what? It's so easy. Do not underappreciate what we have now.
Absolutely. So like as Leland was saying, right, I went to fiction writing and short stories, and I actually got published for a fantasy short story, which was fantastic, getting to get a short story published by Woods of the Coast, which was a huge deal for me. And then I sort of dabbled in some small contributions to some role-playing games, which is a fantastic opportunity.
Wow.
Also part of my passions in my childhood.
You got to talk to my boy Josh, but he's the role-playing dude on my team. He's trying to get me into it. And I said, the only reason you want me to play is because you're trying to figure out a way to slay me.
Sure, you need to have a really strong relationship, a good positive relationship with the people you play with, because those things can happen. Absolutely.
No. I say that in jest because when it comes to video games, he always fucks me up. It's like, what else? You just trying to embarrass me in something else, bro? Is that all you? I'll make it just wants to work. I never said I'm the best in anything, although I talk a good game.
Absolutely.
From New York, can I help myself?
Right.
Marissa, no, Brooklyn, bro. We talk shit.
And I moved a couple of times between my early 20s to my early 30s. You pick up and relocate to an entirely new city, start a family, start a new job. And just like Marissa, I discovered that there was this comic group gathering weekly at a library here in our Okanagan Valley. And I was at the right point where I was desperately wanting to write comic books, but I needed both that validation that I knew what I was doing, that somebody could read what I wrote and said, yes, this makes sense and it's entertaining. But I also needed the help. I needed that, really honest, constructive criticism and feedback to figure out what I was doing right and what I was not doing well, and get help with that. And so this comics group met weekly for a workshop in the library. That was my saving grace, and it allowed me to connect now finally with something that I had been searching for I want to not age myself, but for decades. Finally got together sit down in a room of people that share your passion, that are all creatives in different ways.
Psychomagnetism, kiddo,
so
like Tim Starenko says, psychomagnetism at work.
Yeah,
right there, yo. When you with people of like mind, there's just an energy like other.
And so I felt that from day one. Leland was super gracious and got me connected and hooked up so I could come in and meet with these people. That. And now, and that was that time flies by, and that was several years ago now, and it feels like it was only last month that we first started doing that. And then that got me back into it now with a real energy and a real drive. And every week we were basically bringing our work and demonstrating that we were improving. And then you want to bring your even better work the week after to show how much you're learning and to get excited to see what everyone else is bringing to the table. And as Leland points out, Marissa brings her work and she's not certain that she's in the right place. And then you get that round table discussion where people can point to that and say, no, you're ready. Here's more of what you can do. That's great, but you're ready. And then we just feed off that energy. And now we're all making comics together. And it's just absolutely fantastic.
Isn't it beautiful? What about you, Jay? Let me know.
I've been drawing. I mean, I can't remember a time that I wasn't drawing stuff. I used to have to go to work with my mom. She owned a hair salon, and I would hang out under the front counter and waste away all of her Post-it pads drawing shitty dinosaurs and stuff.
I love it.
So it's like something that's kind of always been part of my life, and as I got older, there's that combination of kind of natural improvement, people seeing and enjoying what you do, and that being encouraging to do more. And Eventually, I ended up going to school for it after trying my hand as an English major, anthropology major. I did a lot of weird stuff in between. I got a degree in animation back in 2013, only to discover that I can't stand LA. I didn't want to work like a grueling storyboarding job. And then in 2017, I went back to school for my master's degree in illustration. And it was while I was there, I put my emphasis purely on comic books. I returned to that as like because I've been folding paper in half and making comics since I was 9. And it was Kit Seaton. She's done, what's the one I'm thinking of? Norway. It's a graphic novel through Image, a couple of others. But she was one of my professors there at Cal State Fullerton. And she gave me the encouragement that, like, there's no reason I couldn't be doing stuff for class and also doing work professionally on the side. And in the same week, I ran into Marco Finnegan at my job at Apple Retail. He lived in the same town I used to live in. And he's the guy who got me onto Twitter as a place to look for opportunities. So I kind of hung out my slate.
You see Marisa Twitter?
Yeah.
It worked. Within 2 weeks, I landed 2 paid jobs, and it's been kind of snowballing from there since about May 2018 or so.
I love that, but you see, you find opportunity through networking because, again, I hear your pain sometimes, Marisa. Twitter, but again, Twitter is like any other social media platform. You just gotta know what to ignore, when to ignore. And know when to not, just bite your lip for a moment. Is it worth my energy? Because again, believe you me, here in Florida, I have seen wild stuff just in the corner of my hood.
Yeah.
Just as a brown person, I've seen things that offend me, like protests that you wouldn't believe. Like, oh wow, like why are they doing this on the corner of my hood? That scared my family. But you know what I did? Just kept blasting my hip hop. Listen to this, rhyme to this motherfucker, and let's get it done. That's it. I don't care. I ignore it, man. I can't deal with that stuff. That's what I'm saying. So with you probably can find great avenues there. So, talk to me about Thistle, man. Let me actually show this trailer. Let me share the screen real quick because the trailer's dope. You guys gotta see this because this is an upcoming project. You guys have no idea what you guys are gonna be enjoying. Then I'll share some, some awesome screenshots and whatnot. But let's get it done. Let's get it done right now. Let me make it a little bit bigger there. Let's do it. Oof. Love that.
I wish the lettering could always float like that.
Well, it's a great job by this whole team. Look at y'all.
I love that. I love the split screen.
Just love this. All these weapons. I'm like, oh my god, what's going on here? You guys are such cheeses. Yes. Got a sub now. Let me put that bad boy on screen. Gorgeous video. I love it, yo. The whole font, everything you guys did on that bad boy looked absolutely dope. And why is this just keeps going? Hold on. Where is it? There we go. All right. You're off, right? And boom. Boom. All right. That was dope, yo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What an awesome little trailer. What a tease. Please now, who wants to go first here and give me an explanation and our fans what is Thistle?
I'd love to put Marisa on the spot, but I won't do that to her. I'll take that one on.
Yeah, the way she does it, say what? That's a meme right there. Love it.
Marissa's video feed will cut out suddenly. Yeah.
Technical difficulties.
So I talked earlier about being a Gen X kid, a child of the 80s. We grew up on sword and sorcery, fantasy movies, Conan comics, as you said before. All of those really great influences, and fantasy, of course, is one of our staples, right? And there are these traditional, recurring, epic fantasy stories of a hero or a band of heroes rising up to face an evil, to face a dire threat, to save the world. And sometimes, as you pointed out earlier, Al, right? Sometimes the heroes win, and sometimes they don't win, but there's still an epic resolution to that. Those are all fantastic stories. Those are some of our favorite stories. We love those stories. We keep going back to them again and again. And I love those stories too. But that was not the story that I wanted to tell. With Thistle, I wanted to tell the story after the story. What happens to those characters, those heroes, those protagonists, when they fight the battle to save the world at the end of the world, and whether they win or they lose, after that's over, what happens next? What do those characters do then? Is there still a home to return to? Do they have the strength to make that long journey back home again? Those are the stories that we rarely get to see and hear again, right? There's never we don't get to explore the moment after the denouement. We don't get that resolution. And so with Thistle, I wanted to explore these characters trying to survive in a world now that has been, completely broken, and making the decision, is there something still worth fighting for? Can they still go on at that point? And that journey home, which you saw the tagline in the trailer, the long journey awaits. That's where we start with Thistle. And so the tagline that I've been using for all of our promotion is the end is the beginning. Because it's what happens after the end of the story. That's where Thistle starts.
Oof, and it's true. I love that narrative. That's the way I've always been curious about that. Because we always get an end story, and some stories just end like that. But what happens after? I mean, what are they dealing with? And we never get that side. So, kudos on you for even, thinking, let's, dive even deeper into the emotional aspects of what happens, the PTSD, if you will, of the battle, of that war. I mean, these motherfuckers are going to be dealing with some tough shit right now.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
exactly.
it's truly mental. It's crazy. Thank you for doing that. So, who was the first person you invited to the team when this was it? You? Was it? What is a collaborative effort? Like, how did the story come about, and how did the team begin to form?
So Leland will tell you a great story about me bringing the initial, what was the genesis of the Thistle scripts and the Thistle ideas to workshop every week, and the workshop helping me make that better. But in fact, it was sort of a two-part process. I participated in Gail Simone's comic school event that she did on Twitter back in 2020, where she challenged us to come up with a script by the end of the workshop, by the end of the event, and have a script that would be ready to go. And so I always had this idea for a fantasy story in my mind. But when you do Gail's workshop, one of the things you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take a dice, just like you would from role-playing games, and randomly roll your genres. And so ironically, the first genre that I rolled was fantasy. And I'm like, well, that's easy. I've already got a fantasy story ready to go.
Hey, thank you.
But she challenged you if you wanted to roll a second genre and mix. And so I rolled the dice again and I rolled horror. And in doing so, it took me in a direction that I hadn't envisioned for this story before. The idea of this world being broken and it's inhabited by the forces of the undead, and you're trying to survive in a landscape that's just been devastated, and your friends and family members are either missing or gone or dead. And so that really became evocative and really interesting to me. And it took the story in a new direction that I hadn't envisioned. And so that's just an awesome part of the creative process, is when a germ of an idea plants, and then you get something further that goes with that. So the first person, but then I realized I needed an artist, and I didn't have the artistic talents to bring this to life myself. I needed an artist, and we were just talking a few moments ago about the strength of Twitter and the strength of the comics community. Yes. And so I was finally on Twitter after taking way too long to get there myself. And by doing so, I was reading all of these tweets and threads and all of these artists' communities that people had post. And lo and behold, I come across this artist named SCHIEK in one of these artists share your portfolios threads. Oh, and cool. I looked at his portfolio, and I saw a fantasy story that he had done that was in the exact art style that I wanted for Thistle.
Wonderful.
So I reached out to Jay and introduced myself and said, please draw my story.
So Jay, how did you take that, man? When you had this random stranger come at you like, "Yo, I love you. Can you do this?" How did that feel?
I am always extremely flattered when anybody approaches me about doing work. It's something I love about comics more than like any other entertainment genre. Is it's very, very easy to jump stories and genres very easily. That sounds a little redundant, but the I mean, like the variety is there.
Yeah.
You're not stuck for years or months on like an animation production where it takes like 9 months to make an episode of an animated show, and you might be one small part of that. And with comics, it's kind of, you get to inhabit a lot of different aspects of things, and I'm always very pleased when anybody wants to bring me along for a new journey.
Wonderful.
And I had done some fantasy for a pitch that didn't end up coming to fruition. We tried running it as a Kickstarter and it didn't fund. And then the idea sort of got tabled from there. And then I had other things to move on to. But I had really enjoyed kind of living in that sort of fantasy world with armor and horses and castles and things. And was definitely very, very anxious to get back into something along those lines, and this ticked a lot of boxes for me. It was fantasy, elements of apocalypse, and horror has become something of a specialty for me. So getting to do like burnt out landscapes or like Daniel Warren Johnson out on some monsters, like I was totally about that.
I get you, man, especially how we feeling nowadays. Like, yeah, man, F the world. Look how it looks now to me. Yeah, I love it, man. Get crazy. I love it. So, Leland, what is that story that JL was teasing us about?
Oh, you're trying to sneak some spoilers out of the letterer.
Hey.
He plays it pretty close, man. He plays it pretty close. I don't know much more than you do. But I was thinking about, we were talking about Boba Fett, and I feel like Star Wars is such a great example of, like, writers. Like I'm a writer too, so we'll talk about character and character development and themes and all that kind of shit. And at the end of the day, despite that, I'm still a nerd. I want cool shit. I want spaceships. I want dragons. I want badasses with big swords.
I want action.
Yeah, and I want that little,
not to bug them out. I got you.
Yeah, but if you just give into that, if it's just like, I'm gonna throw all the cool shit possible at the audience, and there isn't that heart, if there isn't that, and I feel like that's what made the OG Star Wars so great, was like, Luke's a dork. Over the course of Star Wars, he becomes a badass space wizard, right?
Yes.
Leia's a bit of a spoiled princess. She's tough. Over the course of the story, she becomes even tougher. Han Solo's a selfish smuggler. End of the story, he's a hero worthy of a princess.
Right.
And like, Jason's got, I'm losing my light. Just a second. streaming breakdown over here.
Don't you love it when you go live and lights start walking by themselves?
Yeah, it means it's real. Yeah, so what got me psyched on Thistle was there's 5 awesome characters and there's so much cool shit. And I like, that's it. I'm in.
I love it. So Marissa, how you got approached, and how did you feel by getting approached in this project? What happened? How's your involvement in all this? How'd you slide into this awesome project?
JL Collins kept bragging about this artist that he's going to work with, and showing me his art, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, that's good art.
So JL's talking, it's just talking like, yo, check this out,
exactly. And I was like,
just teasing you.
Okay. And yeah, like, his art's awesome. Like, check out his website. And I think we ended up working together on a project before this, like all of us, Leland, JL, Jay, and myself, for like an anthology, and I got to color Jay's work. So that's like how I met everyone. But basically, when JL was like, "Do you want to work with them again on this fantasy project?" I was just like, "Yeah." Like, I don't need to hear anything about the story. I don't care. I like coloring Jay's art. I like working with you guys. Like, let's go.
Yeah. And look at this. Look at this page here. It is gorgeous. The coloring, I mean, the lettering, the box placement. The story, of course, is amazing. I mean, you guys are an amazing team. Look at this. Talk to me about just this opening page.
So this is essentially the introduction to the setting that you're in. This blasted out bleak landscape. You've got this bodiless narrator who's telling you about the first panel, right? Describes these, what I talked about before, about these age-old stories of heroes rising up to defeat a villainous foe and having a great sacrifice in doing so, and that those are classic tales that are told again and again in mythology and in culture. And right at the end, it says, "This is not that tale, because this is not the story that you think it's going to be." And then
apparently,
yeah.
Shit, you were killing me with this teaser. Anyway.
and then you sort of end this first page, talking to Jay and talking to Marisa when I'm talking about, we want to see a burned out body, and that's a pretty gruesome visage to introduce to a reader on page 1. But we want to set the stakes quite high to say that something horrific has just happened here, and this person died a pretty brutal death, and so it's setting that tone right from page 1, letting us know that there's magic involved, that there's elves involved, but there's just this really brutal event, and we've just missed it. It's already happened, and we're now picking up, as I said before, the story after the story. What just happened, and who is this character now, and what happened? How did they survive this?
And we see this. I mean, is this the main protagonist right here?
You're looking at Thistle right now, rising up out of the ashes, the immolated ashes of his allies and their foes, and survived through the aid of a companion that sacrificed themselves to save him. And he's both remembering that moment and also coming to terms with the fact that everybody that he was just fighting alongside is gone, and they're never coming back.
And guys, I just want to say, gorgeous again, you guys make an amazing team. The coloring on point, the art, the lettering, the boxing. I love it because I spoke to the great Janice Chang. I mean, legendary letterer, and talking about her placement, we're making sure you don't disrespect any part of the art, man. Let me tell you, homie, you're doing a great job here. Marisa, that coloring is just that artwork. Damn. I mean, and the story again, JL. Fuck, I can't wait till people read this shit, yo. I mean, the teaser alone really has me hooked. I'm already caring for homie. Mm-hmm. I mean, and look at that, yo. I mean, what's going on? So talk about, I mean, where were you guys digging in? What type of mythology were you guys looking at as the story was being developed here?
Leland's so much stronger than I am at talking about mythology because he is so good at story circles, and he works freelance editing in addition to his writing, so he can break that down
Let me know, Leland.
So much better than I can. Not to pass the buck to Leland, but he probably understands more of what I'm trying to strive for and what's inspiring me and what I'm reaching for than I can explain it myself.
Leland, give me that tease, man. Give me that little playbook. Be the John Madden of this mythology.
The writer has the letter of the mythology ball, eh? I mean, the mythology that I see in it is the modern mythology, right? It's like, this is J.R.R. Tolkien, being redistilled and retold, in a modern, darker age. And actually, I didn't think about the parallel of. I remember when Jason brought this in, and I've seen zombies and elves in works together before. Like, I think Magic Cards does it a little bit, but it's not that common in fantasy. And there's that thing of elves are somewhere. They're angelic, right? They're
are they?
They can, I think, depending, like Tolkien's are, right? Tolkien's are like
maybe
demigods or something.
I've seen some crazy ass horror movies with killer elves, so I don't know how angelic they are, man.
Leland's right. Well, it's inspired by that traditional Western fantasy feel. The elves look and sound and feel like elves to a degree. with my own voice, of course, overlaid, my own interpretation of that, what that voice might sound like. But to Leland's point, right? You don't normally there's lots of fantasy stories with undead in it, and that's part of it. But this is not a horror comic specifically. This is not a zombie comic by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, you're going to see a lot of zombies in this first issue as Thistle is now surviving alone, surrounded by the animated forces of the dead that they were all fighting. I love that shot. The dwarf, the dwarf pinned up on the stump. It's just
and what I love is even the panel work on the page here. I mean, who's in charge of this panel work? Again, brings me back to the old school. We have a lot of story on a page. You know, we could eat up the words, we could eat up the art and that coloring and that placement, everything. I mean, again, is this intentional that you wanted to break down the panels this way?
Go for it, Jay.
Who did this? Who did this?
Yeah, I did the layout.
Wonderful job, brother.
Oh, thank you. For these pages, we've kind of jumped back and forth. More recently we've been working from a more Marvel method kind of script, where the panel count is up to me as well as the layout. For these, it was more of a full script, so I knew how many panels I needed on the page, and what was in each panel.
That's experience talking.
what it came down to was, like looking at what the story content of each panel. Okay. So, like the dwarf being, this torched dwarf pinned to a burnt out tree stump. It's further establishing the setting, the consequences of what's just happened. So, in my mind, that entails a much larger story beat, which is why it gets that top third of the page. The rest from there felt, kind of montage as he's stripping what he can use from the dwarf and adding it to his own inventory.
I see, man. He's just pillaging the dead throughout this. I need this. I need that.
Man, that's exactly right.
That's as grimy as a New Yorker could get. I mean, is this where this elf is from? He's from the undergrounds of New York.
It's a survival story. That's part of the story that we'll be telling. Is this, and so you can honor the dead, but some might consider it desecrating the dead to take from the dead. But when you're trying to survive in that moment, what decisions do you make? That's a huge part of what the Thistle comic is going to be about.
They're done. They don't need this no more. They failed in its use. Allow me to try and teach you how.
And Al, you were talking about just Leland's expert lettering, and I agree that he is super tuned into the box placement. He's super tuned into how many words on a page, and then that panel 4 with the arrow shot through the neck. And I said to him, "Could we have the arrows split the sound effect?" And he delivered, and it was just fantastic.
Gorgeous. Talk about that inspiration. I mean, bro, who was your inspiration as a letterer, or is this something you just, you just natural at it? You see this and like, I feel this is where it should be. I mean, do you have any inspirations?
I mean, the people who are killing it at lettering right now are definitely my current inspirations. Guys like Aditya Bidikar and Hassan Otsmain Alhu. Those guys are both amazing and so good at and I like to make a distinction between digital lettering and artists who letter their own work.
Yes,
and I because I'm a big the lettering I like is often made by those one-man bands like Bill Watterson or Jeff Smith, right? And it's because that they were thinking about the lettering when they were composing the page.
Yes.
And so when you're a digital letterer and you're coming in and potentially stepping on someone else's toes, you need to integrate the composition you're adding into the incredible work that Jeremiah and Marissa have already done. It's just come in, be respectful, figure out how to match the art as best as possible. I want that, I want to get as close to looking like Jeremiah lettered it himself. That's always what I'm trying to achieve.
Beautiful.
What's that?
You don't want something I've lettered.
No.
Yeah. But I also want to ask Marissa here too, because look at the coloring. What are the inspirations behind those color palettes? I mean, it's good. I mean, just look at this sequence here, and then when you going from the top 6, and then you go into the other, that haziness and all. You know, it's like, you know, it's dope. I mean, what you know, what is your inspiration? Where you going with this?
So whenever I start like flatting, I have no idea what I'm going to do on the page. But like the way that Jay draws things, it becomes obvious. Like he always draws the light source into the scene, like the sunlight or the fire or whatever, and then does some hatching. So I know like directionally where the light's coming from. And then I always try to think of contrast of color and contrast of light. What?
Please teach me for a moment. I've never heard that term before. Hatching. What is hatching?
Like there's hatching, which is like lines, like on Thistle's cloak, and then there's cross hatching, which is lines like this. There's stippling, which is dots. It's just shading. It's a way of shading, and he's really good at shading with line hatching. So we all learned something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The more you know. I'm about to get one of those little traders right there. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just like really interested in contrast with light, like dark and light, and then also contrast of color. So like if the background's red, or if the main character's green, I make the background like a burnt orange so the character pops. Unless you want the character to feel like they're part of the background, then you know, so just trying to think about like what are we supposed to look at and find a way to build contrast around the focus of each panel, and like paying respect to the line work because it's incredible, and not wanting to like pull the focus away from the story.
Wonderful, man. I know,
the whole thing.
Yeah, because SCHIEK is killing it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, for real, but you know, the Iron SCHIEK, not the Iran, the Iron SCHIEK. All right, because he's killing it here, for real. And talk about the inspirations of the characters. I mean, look how dope homie looks here. Very Linkish Zelda to me too.
Yeah.
I mean, is that an inspiration behind this?
I feel like that was an accident. I don't know how much Marisa's played those types of games in the past. I don't know if it was her forte,
are you trying to blow me up, Al? She says.
I'm 30 years old, so Zelda was like very much popular. Like that, I have an N64 and I played Ocarina of Time.
You're an old motherfucker. That's beyond my time.
When I say I'm 30, I'm trying to say I'm old. Like I'm old enough to have played.
You're a youngin'. I'm 16 years your older, young lady.
Oh really? I'm trying to do math really quick.
40,
okay. Well, that's still. I feel like we're in the same age group.
Look at it. It's hiding under the blue right now.
we're all boomers.
Started getting gray. Yeah.
Look. Oh, and who is she? She looks dope. Who's that?
I love this image so much. The line art alone that Jay did is just phenomenal. And then when Marisa brought the palette to bear, she made the character like just the regalness of the purple of the shirt, which is not a color that I had specifically asked her for. Like that, I wanted her. I was really careful with these guys. I wanted to give them. I wanted them to bring their sensibilities, their inspiration to these characters as they were working on them. So a lot of the creative decisions in the line art is Jay's. Like I might just say, here's some basic ideas, but Jay would then design what that character looks and feels like. And then Marisa brings the character to life with that color palette when she brings it in. And I love Rain's art so much.
Same.
Gorgeous. Oh shit! Look at this. I ain't messing with her, yo.
She's scary, yeah.
There's Gloria, the giantess. She is a character that will show up in the story in the very near future, but she's an important part of the story as well because she represents the monster, the other, that dangerous character that you don't know which side she's on when you first meet her. But again, the design
with that skull, it kind of makes me indicate what side she may be on.
Yeah, your instincts are correct, Al. That's exactly right. Which is why it's so cool, and she's quickly becoming. I'm hoping she'll become a character that people really enjoy seeing because
look at that face.
Really
she's just telling me, look at this. Who are you talking to, dude? I'm like, oh my god, especially holding that. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You need a drink? I got you. Anything you need. Yeah, she looks dope though. Great design. Oh man, who is this? Oh man, he almost looked like me a couple of years ago, and my beard looked like that.
This is John'll, shorthand John. He is our marooned sailor who the characters will meet on their journey, and he is a very special character because not only is he from a different culture of sailing and pirates and big ships and sails and that whole fantasy aspect of that piece of it, but he has been taught some of the secrets of elven magic and nature magic that the elves did not think would be shared.
So he's human or elfin?
He's human.
Oh shit! Yeah, folks. Oh, wait till you read again. I share the pages. Read it. Go sneak back and pause on every page and read this shit because you guys. And of course, you go to the pre-launch soon. You're gonna be able to see this preview because you guys are gonna be so happy. The trailer and all. But you see alpha humans, a whole bunch of shit is going on. It's wonderful, wonderful. Oh man, look at homie here. You're just charging at me, looking like man at arms. Who's this?
So this is Grim, our dwarf. So he is somebody who you will also meet after the story begins, and he is somebody who we will discover a little. So I'll give you a spoiler, Al. That future spoiler you're looking for. Grim is someone who was at the same battle as Thistle, and Grim also survives, although just barely. Just as Thistle barely survives, Grim barely survives. There's a reason. There's a reason Grim doesn't have any hair after all that fire. So yeah, you'll get to see that soon.
Oh man, is that the origin story of Dale Collins' hairline also?
No, mine's just the getting older storyline. The slow gradual. Nothing epic about it. That's right.
Just making sure, man. It could always be great stories, bro. I mean, and there you go, folks. You see, that's the project right there, man. That's the pre-launch. I mean, when is this baby launching?
February 1st.
Oh my God, are you guys excited? Is this your first Kickstarter as a team?
Yeah.
First Kickstarter.
First
Kickstarter. Period. Yeah.
It's period. Oh shit. So I gotta ask here. So what type of education did you guys take among yourselves as a team to hopefully understand how to create a successful project?
It's been daunting, and I grossly underestimated how much work it is and how much preparation you need to put into making a really good Kickstarter. It's one thing to just browse Kickstarters on the site and to see comic book Kickstarters that are launching and say, oh, this one looks a little more exciting than that one, or they've got a little bit more rewards. No. It's much more in depth than that. And I quickly realized that I was out of my depth being a first-time Kickstarter launch, that I hired a consultant to help me design the Kickstarter page, and I hired a consultant to help me market the Kickstarter because I realized right away there's so much of a bigger world out there in terms of marketing these pieces. I didn't want to go that alone, and it was the right decision to make because the partners that I brought in to help us with this project have been invaluable.
Well, what's homie Jordan, right?
James
is the big homie that helped put this together.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Shout out to the James. Wherepa, kiddo. Thank you for introducing me to such an amazing group of talented people that have like a fire project. Again, this is up my alley. Again, I'm a Conan fan. As a kid, my first introduction was through Crystal, the Crystal Warrior, or Christ, or whatever you want to call him. I mean, again, that's all fantasy, right? I mean, you guys are right up my alley. This is why I fell in love immediately and understood what you guys are doing. And I cannot wait to see this full project. So how many pages is this baby too? I didn't ask.
So the first issue is going to be 24 pages, so full standard size.
So how many issues? What's the plan here? Wait a minute. You said first issue. What tease. What we got going here? What's
so
the plan?
Even before we get out the first issue, Al, so if you back the Kickstarter, if you subscribe now, be notified when we launch on February 1st. If you back the comic, which we hope you will want to do after you see the pages like Al's been showing, in addition to the 24-page story, we're giving you 10 bonus pages of behind-the-scenes content of how we made Thistle issue 1 and sort of a little bit of our process for each of us. So you get a little sneak peek at that. And then if it's successful, if we get to issue 1 and people love what we do and we connect, we're going to go to issue 2 as soon as we can.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, all right. So right now, the Kickstarter is coming. Where are we at with the production of the book? Is it ready? Is it almost there? I mean, what is the purpose of the Kickstarter so people understand what the goal is?
We're really clear with everybody. We've got about a third of the book already done. The purpose of this Kickstarter is to both pay my team, fund the production of the book, get it completed, get it to print, get it shipped. So the goal for the Kickstarter is in support of producing and shipping Thistle issue 1.
Fantastic. And what's the goal for the book?
We are asking for 10,000 Canadian.
Beautiful, man. You guys
or
are gonna
$5
get
American dollars.
Give or take. Yes.
Shit, man. I give you $5. You're done right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, let me not. But folks, for real, this is a beautiful, beautiful book by a multi-talented team. I mean, for real, it's gorgeous. And thanks to James too for helping to put this together for me to chat with folks like this, because this project is gonna kick ass. I'm more than sure. So I want to ask here. I know a lot of people create comics just the intention to create comics, right? But if there was ever an opportunity to have this project be more than just comics, right? What platform would you want it to be? Would you want it to be an animated feature? Would it be a feature film? Would it be a 12-part or 8-part Netflix drama? I mean, what's the go? What would you like to see happen? Possible. Speak it onto the world, so the gods can listen and make this bad boy happen for you guys.
Well, I'm very, very fortunate that 2 of the people on my team are former animation students and people that have worked at least partially in the animation world. So there's some good contacts there for sure. And the thought of it going beyond, like, sure, it's fun to do like a role-playing game product. That's an easy tie-in that we can work on in the future. An animation project is daunting, but it would be really, really exciting to see these characters animated, much in how the trailer had a little bit of that feel to it, right? It felt like a movie trailer. And
what about a motion comic too? Because that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, the thought of anything live action is so far beyond what I could conceive of at this point. But I know that these types of stories, they connect and they resonate, Al, like as we talked about.
Yes, they do.
And the doors are open. We are happy to explore all opportunities in the future. If this actually connects with our audience.
If it's not an if, bro, it's when it connects.
Yes,
this is gonna be successful. I can't wait. And then because then all of a sudden, like I've seen with many other projects, a publisher's just gonna come at you and be like, "Yo, we want to print this." So, is that something that's an option, or do you have an idea to have your own publishing press as a team?
It's always an option. We would be happy to talk to a publisher if they came to the table and wanted to ask us for it. They need to understand, as I just pointed out, right? The story is the actual production of the book is not complete yet, so we need to get that production finished. But if the publisher wants to know more about the ongoing story and the broader piece, we'd be happy to have that conversation.
Yeah, man. Yeah, folks, just don't sleep in the comics. Don't sleep. I would say big too, but then they'll try to control your shit too much, and I don't want that to happen here. You know what I mean? In the comics, will allow you so much more liberty. I don't want it to control your pride and tell you what to do. Because right now, just with that damn tease, I'm telling you, you hooking me like a fish. I'm out of water right now. I need to breathe because when I can't wait to February. I'm gonna run out of air.
Look forward to sharing it with you, Al. I hope that we get to do that. So
yeah, so check it out, folks. Right there, that's the pre-launch. I need you guys to sign up right now. Please. I recommend 110% to go to Kickstarter.com. Projects JL Collins Thistle, THISTLE, folks. You will not regret it. The teaser alone is dope. The trailer alone is fire. I mean, look at this team. Amazingly talented people, and please follow them on their platform. Upstart. Oh shit! Before we even go, yes, Upstart Comics. A little bit about Upstart. Talk to me. What is Upstart? Why Upstart? And what can we expect from Upstart?
Well, that's our crew. Actually,
that's the crew, like Wu-Tang Clan. That's our crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. USC, son. Hey.
Everybody joins a gang, so join a good one was something I said for our for one of our videos where we were talking about it. Bringing everybody together so we could all compile our portfolios. Be that rising tide that lifts all of us. People should go check it out. We got a bunch of free comics they can check out. I got a blog about story structure if you like to get pedantic about your comics. I get real pedantic.
Wait, so may I ask then, is the Upstart Comics clan accepting members, or they have to go through the 36 chambers of Upstart in order to be members? I mean, what's the process here?
I mean, you can maybe be a Capadonna, but to get right, get right in there, you got
You get vetted,
but we got a Discord. We love to talk about comics. Like, please come check it out. I can see the
battle right now.
Workshops.
A writing battle with JL, an art battle with JP. You know what I mean? A lettering battle with over here with Leland. You know, and then we have a coloring battle with Marisa. You know that. You know, the four chambers of Upstart right now.
That sounds sweet.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun? Like, you want to be a member and just you interview them and do this whole battle with them. Story for story, color for color, line for line. What up, baby? I'm only kidding. That'll be awesome, guys. You guys have been great guests, though, man. When I say wholeheartedly, I really mean that. I do love the project you guys have coming up. You guys have been fun and great energy, you know. So I know that this project is going to get funded. What you're asking for is just chump change nowadays, because you have something very special. But I think, again, I connected very easily with the preview you sent, honestly speaking. So I think that a lot of other folks will have that very same reaction, especially if they are fans of the genre that I am a fan of. You know, this fantasy, you know, this horror look. I mean, it's beautiful art, beautiful lettering, beautiful coloring, and an ill story. I mean, the Voltron of comics right here. You know what I mean? The Wu-Tang of comics, the Upstart. You know what I mean? For real. I mean, you guys are awesome. Thank you for hanging out with me today and chit-chatting, you know, and talking about it. So, last thing amongst all of you, right? In kind of in that Voltron field, what would you say is the greatest piece of advice you guys could give as a team to any up-and-coming team?
The audience is always right.
Mm-hmm.
That's mine. You got to listen to the people. You're trying to make an effect in somebody else's head. Yeah. If they're not feeling it, you can say, "Oh, you didn't get it. Oh, you didn't." It's like, no, they didn't feel it. It's on me as the creator. You know, if they don't connect, it's your fault every time.
But you can't write a story for someone else. Write your story that you want to tell.
Yes.
Dueling advice.
Yes,
I like it.
Both can be true.
Both can be true. It's a sword fight. It's a sword fight, but the non-fresh ones.
Yeah. Tell whatever your medium, writing, art, whatever it is. You tell the story that you want to tell, and you'll find your audience.
As well.
I'd say always leave room to be surprised by yourself and by others. Don't get so caught up in what you're doing that I don't know. There's just so much unpredictability with a project, and it's not that I didn't expect to have a good time on this one, but I'm constantly surprised by, the level of output that everybody's bringing to this, the fun I'm having, all the connection that's happening. If it felt like taking on just a work for hire job at the beginning, it's evolved into so much more than that, and that's been a very wonderful surprise.
Beautiful, beautiful. What about you, Marisa?
Yeah. If it's advice to a team that's starting out, like similar to what Jay said, let your teammates do their thing, and everything, all the feedback you get, everything has to serve the story. So there's no ego. It's just we're all working to make the story better. And I'm not trying to make my colors take front stage. I serve the story. We all serve the story. So everything we do has that behind it.
There you go. 100%. Advice from this up and coming team that's about to fucking kick ass everywhere. I'm gonna see you everywhere. I will see you in Indy, but I know Big 2 is gonna come calling because you guys are so heavily skilled. They're gonna look like, oh man, I got a story for you. How about it? So, God bless you guys on this journey. Thank you guys for being so bold and brave, each and every single one of you, to take this journey, share of yourselves and this creativity. I know it's hard, and I know there's a lot of people that love to talk shit, but you know what? Middle finger salute to each and every single one of them. I personally say thank you, kiddos, for taking that challenge and blessing me with real entertainment. Because again, you guys are not focusing on real world stuff. You guys are just fantasy. It's fun. You're taking me out of reality for a little bit, and you know what? I appreciate that so much. you know, it means the world to me, where I could just get away for a moment from the real world again. Every day I wake up and I find out a new celebrity died. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that sucks to get older. but comic books like this that take me away on an adventure. You know what? Ain't all that bad, yo.
It's the wisdom of aging, Al. I'm right there with you. The escapism now is more important than ever. And escapism that you connect with and that you just you crave it and you enjoy it. I appreciate that you've had that reaction, because that's exactly what we're going for.
Well, you know, job well done, team Upstart, the Wu-Tang Clan of comics. There you go.
That's going on the site. That's going on the banner of the site.
Al Mega says the Wu-Tang Clan of comics.
Yes.
Son,
Al Mega.
I love you guys, man. I really appreciate your time today. With that, folks, again, let me show the banners just one last time before they go. Please, you know, sign up right now. Going live in February. Look it up. It's Thistle. Trust you me, this is 110%, you know, approved by Comic Crusaders, yo. I loved it. And everybody else will too. Please follow this amazing team. You won't be disappointed. That way, you know everything that's going on. And of course, if you create it yourself, I'm pretty sure that, you know, they're looking for extra work elsewhere. You know what I mean, right? Make some extra change. So you never know.
This team is for hire.
Yeah, if you want to get collaborative with this amazing group of people, there you go. Hit them up on their socials. I'm showing you everything, man. Hit it on rewind. Write this down. You know, these people are amazing. You can see with amazing energy. All right. And with that, I'm very happy to have had them on. God bless you guys. With that, my outro tells you what to do, mi gente. Hasta la próxima. It's Al Mega. Wepa! And I'm out. Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.